Well, we've been working with this drawing, trying to assist one of our users who's got a very unstable file. You may recall that if we went File and File Size, it's 30 megabytes inside, nearly 31 megabytes in size. Very big drawing, and it is unstable. So we've been working our way through it, looking for reasons why that design is so big. We would expect this to be somewhere in the region of maybe 7.7 of a megabyte, not 30.9. So let's have a further look at some of the symbols that are used in this drawing. Well, by using GCAD+'s file DXF tools, DXF out and then DXF in, we've reduced the file size of the drawing to a more reasonable 4.785 megabytes, but in my view is still too large. So let's start looking at some of the symbols that are used in here. If I pick this one, if you look over here, it's called Jack All-Rounder. I'm going to rename that one. It'll be a little easier for me to get the spelling right. So blocks, sorry, just click on that. And somewhere here, here's Jack All-Rounder, and I want to rename it. I'll use lowercase Jacaranda. I won't add the species name just for the moment, but we've renamed that one. What I'm now going to do is take that block and copy it to the clipboard and then paste it, start a brand new drawing and paste it. So I want to look at that. What's the size and how is this one? Well, here's the block. Maybe I'll change its background color to white, and there's the block. If we go File and File Size, it's 2.7 megabytes. That's actually huge. So one way to help is to look at it and look at the number of objects or entities. So on a layer called DETL, G and NF, there are 22,000 entries in another tall tree. So what I'm going to do now is clean this drawing up. I've put it in its own folder, and if I can reduce its size and clean it up as far as entities are concerned, I will need to unlock the layer there as well as turn it back on. And then what I'll be able to do is to import this block back into the main drawing, and we hopefully will reduce the file size of the drawing we really want to work on. Well, let's look a little more closely at the blocks in this drawing, and notice there's our jacaranda, which we have renamed. We need to fix its base point. You remember, you should try and get the base point in the center of the object, but I'm going to leave it there because that's where our original drafter put it, because I want to be able to bring it back into that environment and substitute the drawing that I'm going to finish and clean up for this one. But notice that here's another problem we have to fix. There's another block in there called U-Plant Tall Tree 22, and it's difficult for you to see because there's a black background there, but it's just the drawing of its entities that indicate the branching structure of the jacaranda. So we need to look at it. Well, here we are at that plant tall tree, and you can see it's now been organized the same way as the standard GCAD+ symbols are. There are two entities on the construction layer, and if we turn those off, you'll see that the marker will disappear and the outer will disappear. So let's try that again. And there we have it. So we now have cleaned that block up. Now let's return to the bigger drawing and do some block substitution. Well, here I am back in the jacaranda symbol, and we still need to tidy things up. There's a really messy set of layers. There's detail Gen F, and still some on tall tree and some on the plant symbol, which is what we want. So we can move the majority of them onto the base layer that GCAD Plus uses in its scale plant layer. GCAD Plus for symbols just uses a, that's interesting, isn't it? That means all of these, the whole lot of those were set as far as color, they were set by layer, which is fine. So let's have a little look at that. And yes, that detail generation was set by layer. We can now, there's nothing on it now, so we can remove it and OK. And we can go save. Now what we now want to do, if we look here, we have 11,000 entities on that symbol layer. We still have the tall tree layer with 59 on it. We need to move those to their own layer, but we need the important next step. We've still got 1.5 megabytes in size. What we want to do now is to make a little block, which we'll call jacaranda mim frond, and we'll put multiple copies of that into the drawing. And our original designer clearly wanted to have that frond in color green. So let's give it color green like so. And now we can create a block of that with and mim frond. The name needs to be quite meaningful. Pick point, we'll just pick in the middle of it and we'll OK it. There we are, we have that block now. So what we need to do is remove everything else in this area. It's a little bit tricky. Tempera, I was going to say tempera, let's move. That's unfortunately, from our point of view, on the plant symbol layer. So we need to just rather laboriously work our way around, eliminating these. Some are easier to remove than others. So bear with me and I'll carry on doing that. Well, you may remember that the file here was over 1.2 megabytes in size. What I've done is remove, you remember we've made a block which we can use and repeat. I'll just scale it just by eye. We'll make it a little bit bigger and I'll save, because the file size now is 16 kilobytes. So we're down from 1,300 odd kilobytes down to 16. So I've done a very quick copy and paste of some of those symbols. I can clean up a little by doing this. We want them to stay within that zone indicated by the circle there. And the reason for that is we want to be able to, once we're working on this symbol in the main drawing, we want to be able to have a look at layers and turn. Oh, that's good. We've removed the tall tree layers now. Let's go back there. We're really making progress. We have, there's still 45 objects on layer 0, and I need to work out what they are. But importantly, the file size is now 27 kilobytes. So we'll then substitute this in the main drawing and see what we get. So we can copy that frond and spin and rotate things around to make it look more organic. And if we just save at that point, and remember we were at 16 kilobytes, we now got 17, so we've improved things immeasurably, and that one of those symbols in that main drawing is now being reduced from 1.2 megabytes or thereabouts to a very tiny block, and that will certainly have an impact on the main drawing, and we'll be bringing the main drawing further and further down in size. We think we've identified one of the main candidates for this bloated base drawing. Remember, it's called Jacaranda, and what we can do now is see if we can substitute one version of Jacaranda for the new one. And we'll say file size here is 6.1 megabytes. So we go block, add from another file, and blocks Jacaranda, and bring it in. There's our new one. Oh, I misspelled that, my apologies, but it'll be all right. So yes, we want to substitute, and we'll insert it into the drawing. And apart from having a base point down here somewhere, we're doing reasonably well. So let's close. Now remembering 6.1 megabytes, now file size is 4.79, so just that one. And if we now go Tools, Purge Unused Items, and we say OK, and then Save, we'll do another file size. We're down to 3.4, so we've halved the file size just by fixing up that one block. So I'm sure there are lots of others that we need to attend to.